Welcome to another episode of Optimal Health for Busy Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Julian II, back at it again. And in today's episode, I'm going to discuss 6 off-the-radar reasons why you could be sabotaging your health and your happiness. And I say off the radar because these things are maybe not as consciously ingrained or even known to us. And these are things that we can subconsciously be doing without even realizing we're doing it at all. Because as I often say, optimal health is very much a mental game because our beliefs lead to our thoughts, which can then lead to, which can then lead to our feelings, which can then lead to our actions, which of course then lead to the results that we have to show for in our life. And so a lot of these habits today, I was highly guilty of myself, and through coaching has really helped me, and even a stint in therapy has helped me as well. But even if I've done these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that they never show back up in your life. It's just that you are more consciously aware of these things now, so these things don't just sit around and permeate as long. So, and if I put my spiritual cap on for a second here, when I'm discussing ways in which you are unintentionally blocking your happiness and health, I'm essentially saying that you are unintentionally blocking the very manifestations that you want. And so if you're having trouble with manifesting, if you're having trouble with creating results in a particular area of life, whether it's your work, whether it's your health, whether it's your weight, or even your relationships, you're most likely unintentionally doing things that create these resistances against your very desires. And it's kind of weird, right? If you think about it, that we're impeding our own successes from the very things that we want. But oftentimes we are our very worst enemies when it comes to achieving these goals and dreams that we want out of life. We can have the best intentions and we can be supplied with this massive full tank of ambition. But if our software, in this instance, is what's going on between your ears, if that software is not properly running, then we're always going to find a way to prevent ourselves from getting what we really want. And I'll paint a few scenarios really quick here before I get into the points. So think about the scenario where the guy who wants to grow his business, but something always seems to happen when he's making substantial progress. The woman who wants to lose 15 pounds, but never seems to get them all off before reversing back to square one, or she's stuck in the middle. She can't ever have that breakthrough moment to really get that weight off. You know, you can have the woman and guy who are both tired of subpar dating and relationships, and they want something with more substance, but yet they seem to always find themselves with Mr. and Mrs. Wrong again. This is our subconscious at work. And as much as we think we're in full control of our habits and actions on a daily basis, we're not. Much of what we do is by default, because as humans, we're creatures of habits. Whether it's in fitness, whether it's in life, these patterns of self-sabotage will show up. Because how you do one thing is how you're going to do everything. So without further ado, I want to dive into the various ways that you could be unintentionally sabotaging your very desires when it comes to life, fitness, and your professional world. So reason number 1 is what I call exiting prematurely at the storm. And the storm comes before the calm. Typically, we like to think of this as the other way around. You've probably heard this in reverse during the upcoming hurricane seasons and even during peaceful times and war before the upheaval came. But in this case here, the storm is very much going to come before the calm. And what do I mean when I say the storm comes before the calm? You know, difficulty and obstacles and challenges and uncomfortable moments will arise before getting what you desire. You know, there's a cause and there's an effect. For elite fitness and health, there's a storm by means of discipline, sacrifice, and being uncomfortable with pushing your body to its limits. You know, this weekend I did a half marathon and I got my best time. And that took discipline, that took sacrifice, that took having some sore feet at times, some sore ankles, some sore calves at times, maybe some skin peeling away from my feet being on the pavement a lot. But the calm was getting that result. The calm was realizing that I set a personal best record. And so another thing I should say with the storm potentially is making yourself get uncomfortable when it comes to making certain dietary choices over other ones. You know, we're making the choice to do things differently right now because you want to be happier and healthier than you currently are. You're building a healthier, wiser, and happier future, even if in the present moment it's uncomfortable, even if in the present moment you can't see it. I think about this with investing a lot as well. And people see that you're sacrificing so much. And this goes for business as well. You're sacrificing so much. And there's a period where to the outside eye, they don't see any type of progress happening. They may even see that you're taking a few steps back. But you're taking those necessary steps back because you may be taking 2 steps back, but you're going to end up taking 10 steps forward. And so you always have to keep that in mind because, you know, we hear this a lot. If you want to do something different in life, then you must do things differently than you have been. And this means potential upheaval, uncertainty, uncharted territories, new habits, new identities, new routines, and even a little bit of chaos and confusion. This is scary, but change is scary, but it's all part of the process. Things always get better, but they take time. They always take time. Giving up because things are uncomfortable, giving up because things are unfamiliar, giving up because there's one little thing that seems to be off is one of the worst things you can do to undermine and block your health and happiness. So weather the storm to enjoy the following calm. So let's move on to point number 2 here, and that is seeking perfection. Now, we inherently know there's no such thing as being perfect. But how many times have we let the idea of perfect stop us in our tracks, stop us from taking action, stop us from even getting started, stop us from moving forward on something that's beneficial for us? Whether it wasn't the perfect time, the ideal scenario, that one thing that was missing that made it seem like the right move to not move forward, this type of seeking perfection is really just another form of procrastination. And this type of perfection right here is going to prevent us from really thriving in all facets of our lives. So maybe it's a fear of success. Who knows? But it's procrastination and thinking the grass is greener on the other side. So now, just because you're not letting this perfection stop you, this doesn't mean that you're letting your standards drop as well. Instead, here, what's ideal here now is to get clear on what really matters. What's the substance and foundation that's necessary to put you in the best position of winning? What things are truly important to you? What truly needs to be in your life for you to be able and ready to move along? In fitness and with changing your body, it's less of having every minute nutritional detail in order, and it's more of having your environmental setup in a way that will fully help you thrive. Now, I need to reiterate here, not every single little thing matters because there is no perfect utopia moment to start anything. This goes for business and even the relationships in our life because no one's perfect. But the big things do matter. The deal breakers, as some would say, the things that you are not willing to negotiate, the things that drive the engine. If all of those things are in place, then you can easily move forward. And while moving, here's the thing, while moving, you can work on those minor details one by one. So perfect resides in the land of imperfections. So let's go to point number 3 now. And this is where your sense of identity is being tested. Many talk about habits. Many talk about behaviors. Many talk about all the actions they do so they can make a change. But at the deepest layer, removing all of those things I just mentioned, when it comes to making a change with our health, our weight, our career, and our relationships, it's all about our identity. That's at the deepest layer. That's the identity. I'm the type of person that does X and X. I'm the type of person that does insert whatever answer you want there in that blank space. This is one example of clinging and holding on to our identity. Identities help give us meaning in life. Identities help us give meaning to the world around us. Now, our identities, they aren't magically formulated, falling down, shower from us from the sky. Our sense of identity comes from what we do and who we believe we are. Now, I think about myself personally. My identity around fitness and health is supremely solidified from a decade plus of behaviors, actions to support those beliefs internally. And it also doesn't help now that I have visible and tangible results to back up these beliefs. Now, my business identity and even my personal relationship identity, this isn't as strong as my fitness one, because I'm needing to change a lot of the stories that have been circulating in my head. Stories that have been circulating in my head that have been given free rein, that I've never questioned, that I've never taken hold of and stopped and challenged them. And this can be tied into the very first point that we discussed around the storm coming before the calm. So when we make this conscious effort to change what we do to become healthier, happier, and wealthier, it's most likely you're going to feel your sense of identity is in jeopardy. It's most likely going to feel like at times that you are under attack, because who you've been telling yourself you are for years and years and years is now being challenged. And as humans, this is a survival mechanism. It's natural, but we have to be cognizant of these things, that as humans, we will do almost anything to protect that sense of identity that's firmly entrenched inside our consciousness, even if it means it's not the best thing for us. You see these things played out in the weight management issues, poor relationships repeatedly, and even career choices. Each scenario knows they need to change something. They want to change something. But yet they keep finding themselves back in the familiar, but disappointing nonetheless. And this is all because of their identity not being addressed. So all the information, all the best tactics in the world, the best strategy, the best supplements, you name it, all the money in the world, it cannot replace fully addressing your identity when it comes to making a change. And as a last point here, it's important to remember that you are not, nor will you ever be, a finished product. You know, I don't know about you, but the meaning of life to me is evolution. I feel like a different person this month than I did 4 weeks ago. A lot has changed. A lot of my philosophies and ways I thought about certain things have changed. And that's an awesome thing. Sure, we can let our ego and pride get in the way and to stop us. But I mean, this is what life's about. It's about evolution, constantly growing and evolving. This is why each client I coach, or the people that I do just one-off consulting with, I always ask the question, what's next? What's next? Because the journey never stops. So keep in mind that what you are trying to embark on may seem daunting, but you can change what you do each day in a small way without losing yourself, without feeling just lost and massively overwhelmed. If you take every day as a learning experience and strive to change at least 1%, you'll learn from who you are and who you have been. You're not losing your sense of self. You're not losing your identity, but instead what you're doing, and most importantly, I should say, you're embracing who you want to become. You're embracing who you are becoming. So reason number 4 is escaping from the present. Now, let's face it here. Sitting in discomfort isn't exactly something us humans love. That's what the word vices come from, after all. When we feel discomfort, our natural inclination is to run far away from it in the complete opposite direction. I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you are as well. If you have stress from work, a lot of people, they'll grab some snacks to alleviate that discomfort. And in the short term, here's the thing, they'll feel good. They'll provide themselves with some comfort, and they'll provide themselves with some dopamine hits. And as a whole, when we're escaping from the present, there's plenty of options that we have. For some people, it's video games. For others, it's sex. For others, it's drugs. For others, it's alcohol. For others, it's social media. For others, it's food. And even for some people, it's gossip, trashy TV or something. Anything that helps us escape from the present moment and to escape these feelings and emotions that we're feeling. So if I put my philosophical hat on for a bit here, I'm thinking that this constant need to escape the present moment and often transport ourselves to a more pleasant future or a more pleasant situation, it stems from this core belief that the present isn't good enough, or the present isn't good at all. And if you think about it, though, real quick, when we escape the present and we ignore our reality, this is actually giving up on our desired future, because the future is programmed in the present moment. So your desired future can't come to fruition if the proper action isn't being taken in the present. And the proper action isn't going to be taken if you are constantly escaping the present and not facing your reality. The past and the future, it doesn't exist. Each of those things only exist as thoughts in our minds. So if you escape and give up on the present, then you're also giving up on your future desires as well. So reason number 5 here is the rug is going to get pulled out in front of you. So have you ever met those people who they become more and more panicky when things are going good? Their business is smooth sailing, yet they're anticipating everything's going to fall apart. This can be the person in a relationship where it's smooth sailing. There's no drama, no games, nothing going on at all. In fact, it feels very effortless, and yet they are weary as if that's not how it's supposed to be. Maybe it's a 2021 modern thing. Who knows? And this is also, think about the person who's killing it with their fitness. Somehow they find themselves sabotaging themselves due to this expectancy, this feeling in their stomach that the rug is going to get pulled out in front of them. If things are going well with this type of person, there's always the thought that the rug is getting pulled out beneath them. Somehow things are going to go back to how they were before. And here's the thing. Even if something goes off plan and there's a little disruption in the flow of things, it's still a learning experience. It's a sign that you're living life. You're making moves. You're striving to grow. And there's no reason to be knocked off track from your goals. Just take these things in stride and keep it moving. And for the last point here, and I call this the most lethal of them all, and this is why I saved it for last, and it's one, at least was the most lethal for me, most definitely, and that is something that you can call anticipatory anxiety. Some people call it future tripping. Some people call it catastrophizing. They're all fairly similar in nature. And so when you hear someone say anticipatory anxiety, maybe you never heard anyone say it. Well, now you have. When you hear this is like a feeling you get before you're starting something new, before you're starting something that's exciting. You're in an unfamiliar situation. It's a little scary. You're not used to exactly how things are going. It's exciting, but it's a little scary. And personally, this showed up in my life and still does at times. But it does so in a clever way that is not easily identifiable initially. And so I think you're going to be able to relate to this. So I have a tendency to worry and become obsessed about what may and may not happen in the future. Will this business initiative work? Is this the best fitness plan that's programmed for myself? Is this the best fitness plan programmed for this client? What will she think if I do X and X? Insert plenty of blanks there and so forth. And this future tripping, it's all about fear and control. I'm robbing myself of the present moment. And if you do this in any phase of your life, you're as guilty as well. And this is putting a damper on the richness of life that we could be potentially experiencing. This is putting a damper on our health, on our happiness, because everything is absolutely connected. You've heard me say this a lot. It's a system. It's a human system. Everything is inputting and communicating with our bodies from a deep cellular level. So nothing involving our lives exists in silos, no matter what people like to say. So something going on in one area of life is most definitely going to have an effect on something else in our life. Now, here are some things that I tell myself, which you might as well. I'm just being prepared. I'm just thinking moves ahead. And oftentimes, yes, it's good to be prepared. You need to do that. You do not just need to be freestyling through life out here, right? But we know when there's prepared, and we know when there's just this overbearing preparedness that's almost like procrastination and just fear-inducing, anxiety-ridden preparation. So in this situation here, what I'm really doing is blocking any sort of blessings, blocking any sort of substantial momentum from happening. And instead, I'm bringing a healthy dose of paranoia and self-sabotage into my life. Now, if you're honest with yourself, a lot of times when we are quote unquote planning the future in these situations, we're thinking ahead and we're planning out only the worst ways a situation can unfold. We're thinking about problems, not probabilities. We're thinking about what if it doesn't work, not what if it does work. Where our focus goes, our energy flows. And we're letting a minor situation or a little uncertainty run wild and catastrophize a future that is oftentimes nothing close to the actual reality of the situation. We're manifesting problems into our lives. So the first step in kind of wrangling this nasty habit in is to address this type of thinking. And it's not to actually fight it or even pretend that it doesn't exist. You don't even want to do that. The first step actually is to simply acknowledge what's going on in the first place. Acknowledge the situation actually. Catastrophizing is a habit that usually occurs instantly without any sort of conscious effort. And to catch yourself catastrophizing here, start paying close attention to your thoughts. Start paying close attention to the voice that's going on in your head right now. We can hear the language and the words that we're speaking to ourselves. This gives us life, this gives us death, of course. But we can hear how we're talking to ourselves throughout the day. So what are you telling yourself throughout the day? And one huge clue that you're engaging in this sort of worst case scenario thinking and behavior is that you speak to yourself in absolutes. This always happens to me. I'll never find a partner. I'll never get a six pack. I'll never be able to wear that dress. No one will ever be attracted to me. Always, never, no one. All these types of words are typical of extremely pessimistic thinking that is a characteristic of catastrophizing. And this ultimately results in this anticipatory anxiety because you start catastrophizing about the future. You start catastrophizing about a situation. This builds up anxiety because you get your mind racing about, oh my God, this is going to happen. This is going to happen, yada, yada, yada. And this anxiety is building up. This anxiety is ridding you, robbing you, removing you from being present in the situation. We go back to our future point. You're being removed from the present, so you can't really work on the future that you desire, which is this nice feedback loop of always keeping you in this situation. And the way a lot of people handle anxiety is to reach for those vices, and that affects their health. And these are some of the conversations that we don't have when we talk about optimal health and why people struggle with their health and fitness. We always want to immediately go and say, go eat this diet. Go eat keto. Give up all your carbs. Just eat meat. Go work out more. Go sleep more. And there's so many other things that is going on inside our lives that's affecting these basic healthy behaviors that people just tell us to go do. So you absolutely have to look under the hood because all of these things are very much connected with one another. So back to the situation of catastrophizing here. Another thing that you can do is actually write down the various outcomes. I don't want you just to look at the world and just turn a blind eye to anything that could happen. That's not embracing reality, because bad things can happen. Unfortunate situations can happen. Disappointments can happen. But we also have to realize that a lot of good things can happen as well. So we have to be able to have the lens to see both scenarios. So in this situation here, write down some extremely positive things that could happen. Write down some extremely disappointing things that could happen. Write down that you could close this huge life-changing business deal, but also write down that you could not close this life-changing business deal. You could very much get ghosted. You could very much have thanks, but no thanks. Write down both those things. Write down, I could very much get in the best shape of my life this year. And then on the other end, I could very much end up in the same shape I'm in right now. Two scenarios, but this provides a full range of possibilities and will slowly help you start to see that there's possibilities that exist also, and not just problems and disappointments. The world likes to paint only disappointments. The world likes to paint struggle. The world likes to paint fear and scarcity oftentimes, but there is opposites of that needs to be brought to the light. It needs to be at the top of our head, at the top of our thinking as we go about things. So as we land this ship here, which each of these 6 reasons discussed, and let me go through these 6 reasons again. The first reason was exiting prematurely at the storm. The second one was seeking perfection. The third one was your sense of identity is being tested. The fourth one is you're escaping from the present. The fifth one is the rug is getting pulled out in front of you. And the sixth one is anticipatory anxiety, future tripping, catastrophizing. I lump them all together. Those are the 6 under the radar reasons. Now, there's one simple habit that could help in addressing each one of those reasons that I listed, and that is simply visualizing. I don't know why I have trouble saying V words, but visualizing. And especially in regards to that last point there, visualization can help suffocate this anticipatory anxiety and catastrophizing. When you visualize, you're deliberately planning what could go right. You are painting a perfect picture. You are performing alchemy. When you visualize, this helps embody the feeling of what you want to experience in the present, and then also what you want to experience in the future. You're retraining your mind to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. That's a key thing there. You're retraining your mind to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. Because remember, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Think about the people who say, I'm tired of being sick all the time. I've seen this a lot growing up. I'm tired of being sick. I'm tired of being sick. And what did they get more of? They got more sickness. They got more sickness. They got more sickness. So focus on what you want, not what you don't want. As many of the spiritual books will say, feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. Feel the energy of what you want to experience. Yes, you may want to lose 15 pounds. You may want to put on 10 pounds of muscle. But what does that feel like? What does that feel like? What does that feel like to make $100,000 in 1 month, if that's a girl? What does that feel like? That's the secret. That's what we need to bring into the present moment to start creating the future that we desire. So if it feels happiness, euphoria, if you feel powerful and limitless, then that's the feelings that you should strive for on a daily basis to get yourself feeling. Because whether you realize it or not, the results that we create in life often stem from a feeling. Everything starts from a feeling. Like, why did you do this? Because I felt like it. I felt like this. I felt like this. Arguments always start with feelings more often than not. So we have to control our feelings, control our emotions. So with all of this said, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. I took a little break. I think I took 2 weeks off between doing an episode. I'm going to be much more consistent in the future. Hopefully, I'm getting back to producing multiple episodes weekly. I'll have some guests as well, but I definitely appreciate your time and ears. It's definitely not taken for granted. If you're looking to optimize your fitness, make aging irrelevant, and ultimately enhance your human system, let's have a conversation. In the meantime, shoot me a message on social, shoot me a message through email, and we'll have a complimentary consultation to learn more and about where you are ultimately trying to go for the end of this year and into 22 and beyond. In the meantime, though, stay awesome, be limitless, and as always, go be superhuman. Peace.